I guess we'll call the meeting to order since Danny doesn't want to share his gavel.
I don't have one.
Neither.
So, call the meeting to order at 5:30. There is 7 out of 7 members present, so there's no absences. The only adjustment that I have is if there's time allotted at the end, I just want to have a quick discussion about policy BEDH, which is the public participation policy. So, based on that, did anyone look at the minutes from last month? Do you have any motions on the minutes?
I make a motion to accept the September minutes.
Second. All right.
Let me start out.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
All in favor? First, all in favor? All opposed? 7-0.
Okay.
Okay. Do we have any public that wants to speak? Usually we don't do that for committee meetings, but we'll open it up. Hearing none, we will go to action item BBBA, student representation to the school board.
Thank you. So I figured out what went wrong. There is no sample BBBA, and so they recommended that we rename it if we want to keep it BBBAA. So that later, if we ever want to have a BBBA, we would then have the student represent the correct policy would be board qualifications. We have that in a different policy. So what I would recommend is that if you want to keep the policy BBBA, student representatives to the school board, then just rename it. I'm going to try to say this again, BBBBAA. Yeah, like R2D2 and C3PO, except 3B2A. Been living in this for a month, you guys. So that was what the folks told me. That's why it went awry.
And that would be a recommendation that we'd have to present to the board, correct, Danny? If we were gonna
Relettering?
change the actual policy name, or you think we could have the authority to do it?
Because you're
here?
not changing the meaning of the policy.
Okay,
So I would say no.
okay. Anyone want to make a motion?
Make motion to change BBBA to BBBAA.
Thank you, Randy.
Second, yeah.
And Rachel, second. Before we take a vote on it, did anyone else have any other, well, actually, we'll vote on this first and then we can go look at the policy itself. All in favor for that change? All
Okay.
opposed? 7-0.
Okay.
Did
Are
anyone
you typing in a different
have any
document?
questions
I
about the
might
actual
be.
policy itself?
Oh, shoot. Hold on just a sec. Karen and I need to calibrate.
I sent you the agenda.
Oh, I had some notes that I'm reading, and I started typing in that one, so
Oh,
just
okay.
keep going. We're good.
Well, I don't
Thank you.
have
I'm
the-
sorry. We
I
had to
don't have the
calibrate on.
consent agenda because I was doing something else.
Yep. Here, I'll share with you what I'm typing into. Thank you, Karen.
I know we tabled this the last meeting just because we wanted to get some legal counsel on that because there was no actual guidance or any other sample policies we could use. So, anyone has any additions, deletions that they've made to the existing policy? It's
I move the market review.
monomarket review.
Okay.
Second. So Ben made motion, Rachel seconded. Any other discussions? All in favor? Opposed? 7-0.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is policy BEC, executive sessions.
Yes, our attorney recommended adopting the smaller version because if there's a change to the law, the smaller version covers us. But it's totally fine if the board wants to keep the one that we have, the longer one. Just be aware that we may have to change it if the law changes it because it's a little more specific. So it's an either or. They just, again, with policies, you want them to be as nimble as possible with the law so you don't have to bring them up and go through this whole process every time there's a change. But she said either one is fine. It's up to you.
Anyone want to say anything, provide feedback?
If we, excuse me, if we go to the shorter version, will this need to go before the entire board?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
or if we mark it as reviewed, then it just, yeah, we're back in the hop.
I-
Yes,
I guess I can accept the need to make it nimble for the law, but I would still like to keep the paragraph, or amend the final paragraph of the sample to be the final paragraph in ours, which is just a little bit firmer, I
Mhm.
think. Maybe not firmer, but it just kind of reinforces the fact that this is serious business, we need to follow it.
Yeah, and if you want to make a motion to just mark it as reviewed, I'm fine with keeping the one we have, and so was the attorney. She just wanted you to know what the difference was. It's just an FYI, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's an important topic for sure. I'm good. It's up to you all.
I'm not sure I understand. What did you want to read?
The final paragraph in our current policy on page 2 just has a little more teeth to it than the final sentence or 2 sentences of the sample policy, and I guess I'd like to keep that.
Tom, did the attorney give any inkling of a guess or a notion or a suggestion that there would be any changes to the laws around executive sessions anytime soon?
No. I doubt there will be too. I mean, it's pretty standard practice.
So I would be fine moving to mark this review.
Second.
Okay.
got a motion on the table to mark this as reviewed, and made a motion, Randy seconded. Any other comments? All in favor? Opposed, abstentions 7-0.
Thank you.
Next item is policy IKAA, use of, oh, what's that? Oh,
It's
that's
actually J. It just is
Oh,
under
okay.
the underline, yeah.
JKAA, use of restraints and seclusion.
So this is the first policy that you've seen that's in the format that I'm used to using. You can see that the things that are struck out and the things that are added. I do just want to take a minute to thank Penelope and Ashley because they worked with me on this policy. It's really in their department, and this is the way that I like to do things, is to have the administrators that manage and administer the policy have a voice in the revision, so that they have to be the practitioners that put it on the street, so to speak, and follow it. So we use the Drummond and Woodsum guidance that I received at the training earlier in September. The law is currently in effect as written in this policy, so all this does is mirror what the changes are in the law.
About what, a week ago, the new law?
The 24th of September they started.
Yeah, and this is a new policy, so this is something that we'd have to bring up to the board, correct?
It's a revision
Oh,
of an
it's a
existing.
revision.
It's a revision of an existing, and it would have to go to the board for first and second read.
Yeah, oh, that's
Yeah.
because there's markups in there.
Yep.
I make a motion that we send this to the board for first reading.
Okay. Was that
Anything?
Tim? Thank you, Tim. Yep.
Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? 7-0.
Thank you. So the next one is the procedure for that policy with the same changes roughly in the procedure. And could I ask, do you all like the format? Does that make it easier than trying to look at
Yeah.
two documents and go back and
Yeah.
forth? And all right, great. Glad that worked for you.
And I can speak that people online appreciate this new policy. It's more transparent, so they can really see what the changes are as well. So
Good.
the community as a whole is happy about this format as well.
Thank you.
Did you want to go into any history on
I-
why these changes had to be
Yeah,
made?
sure. I can briefly just say that the gist of it is that there are many situations where the old law and the way that things work, you almost had to wait until there was actually physical contact or a danger. And this is very welcome. When I was a principal in 2010, you couldn't even pick up a kindergarten student that was rolling on another kindergarten student because that was considered a restraint. We used to call it the flick standard. If someone was flicking you in the ear and you grabbed their finger and held it, that's a restraint because they can't move their finger. And so it took a lot. As a principal, I had a stack of restraint forms that spring in my desk because of this how strict it was. The intention is totally positive. We don't want to put hands on kids, but it just went too far. So they're finally now 15 years later coming around to a more reasonable standard, which is if you need to guide a student or move them to keep them safe, that's not necessarily a restraint. I mean, a restraint really is a physical restriction of someone's ability to their ability to move for the purpose of keeping them safe and protecting them. It's a pretty aggressive process that's done with training, right? Stopping a kindergarten kid from running down the street isn't necessarily a restraint unless you can't get them to turn around and come back, right? So it just gives us a little more room. If someone's about to get in a fight at the high school, you can stop them before it happens. And that's the goal. And I'm actually really, it's unusual that I'm this happy that something changed, right? This is really good for the practitioners, the teachers in the classrooms that are dealing with kids. I'm happy for our staff. And so was Penelope and Ashley, because it's a lot of paperwork.
Yes,
Do we have a sample for this policy?
Oh, what?
A sample?
Well, the sample, what I did was I embedded it into the,
So those are the only changes between our
Uh-huh.
policy and the sample?
yeah, we do that work for you so that you can see what's been taken out and what's been added based on the sample. Yep.
and then from there, we can decide if we wanna strike out what they struck out, or
Sure.
Yeah. Yep.
Also saves paper.
saves paper, yeah, so considerable amount of it.
Look at us whittling down the
It's-
budget.
Yeah, it saves us a little bit of time, unfortunately, it adds more to Tom, but he's willing to.
Oh, it's okay. It's way smoother this way.
Anyone else? Do we have a motion?
Here, right?
No, this is the procedure.
Right.
Yeah,
So just
I
to talk
JKAAR.
about First read, because there is strikeouts.
I would make a motion to send this to the board for a first read with the included changes.
Second.
First and seconded. Any more comment? Those in favor? 7-0. Okay. And then the other two items were ones that we had to table just because we needed more either legal advice or whatever the case may be. So next one is policy BCB, board members' conflict of interest.
Thank you. I didn't redact these two because they were already in the. You were already working on them before I got here, so I didn't want to impose the new system on policies that already existed. But I did get the 2025 version that's in the link now. So I talked to Kathleen because they were Drummond and Woodsum recommendations, and she said that you could leave ours as is or adopt the sample policy. She said that either one would really be fine. It's up to us.
And the samples in this packet are still labeled 2021, so.
Oh, that's a mistake. The one that's in the Google Doc is
Okay.
2025.
Alright.
Did you check out the one in the Google Doc, or do you want me to go print some?
I can believe that.
Okay. I apologize, Ben.
I still have the handouts from last time, in case anyone wants them.
Any further discussion? Anyone wanna make a motion?
Make a motion to mark ours as reviewed.
No, you made a motion, let the second it, and then we can talk.
Second?
Second, second?
If I'm reading it correctly, I kind of liked the parts where, like on page 2 of the, sample, the alternative paragraphs, because it allows, spouses and board members and family members to be, people who work for the district on stipend and that kind of thing, and we have that in our district already, but we've always had to have a special vote to, negate the nepotism thing and the board of interest, conflict of interest kind of thing, and it's really kind of, to me, just silly. We have a 5-town district, they are small towns, you're gonna run into family members being part of this district. So I would like to, you know, I guess, advocate for adopting those paragraphs at the very least. And you know, to change it from number 2 on page 2 of the current, policy.
Under section B.
Yeah.
Randy's motion is on the floor, so you wanna withdraw your motion, you wanna amend it, leave it as is?
It doesn't matter that much, like they said, one is as good as the other, so I can withdraw my motion. And
Yes,
let's go further.
I was just going to ask, Naomi, you in particular, since you were kind of the prompt in bringing this up last year, do you feel that the samples that you were given add the clarity, that you were hoping for in the area of board members' spouses?
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference though between that situation because she was an actual employee,
Yeah.
not just on stipend.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a completely different thing, but I'm, you know, I'm totally on board with, stipending family members in the district, so.
Are you making a motion, or?
I'm just answering Ben's question.
Okay. Yes, wait.
I guess that the note makes me feel like it's not really settled with law and maybe has some, complications.
Yeah, it does say that the exceptions have been repealed.
And they were repealed July 1st, 2024.
Well, I think part of it too is what it talks about in, the paragraphs in bold, print on the sample on page 3, and it talks about, you know, doing things in the best interest of students in the school unit as a whole, and because of, high profile, it talks about school board, opening the door to having certain high profile roles, but then, you know, if they get fired, it can be, you know, contentious. I don't know, we've had to come and negate this policy several times during the last few years, and it just seems kind of silly to me.
We haven't negated the spousal one though.
Not the policy, but we've had to vote to allow someone on who this policy would not.
I thought we changed our policy so that we didn't have to vote for family members or something.
Maybe it was
That's
in
a
the
different
nepotism thing,
policy.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But if it's in one, why wouldn't it be in the other?
But we're specifically talking about spouses.
I think we don't really have the option of dealing with the alternative paragraphs 2 through 4 as they're given in the samples that we have. Because in that first text block under employment, it does say, if the board wants to allow the exceptions, the language reflects them, but you'll have to revert to the original paragraphs 2 through 4 when the exceptions are repealed, and they are repealed effective last July. So I think we're stuck with basically the may not be an employee, may not serve as a volunteer who has primary responsibility. Volunteer activities may be prescribed by policies developed and approved by the board. I don't think we have that. I think that flexibility is still in the document, but that's a legacy of the age of the sample.
Anyone else?
So in the 2025 one, that all of those alternate paragraphs and stuff are not present. And if you
Right, because of the repeal, yeah. a motion, or?
If it's an other item, can we simply take no action? It's on our agenda as, these two policies are on our agenda as other items rather than action items, so do we have the option of simply letting the existing policies lie with no action on
You
it?
could table them again, yeah, there's nothing that prevents us, you know, from pushing forward, so if you wanna make a motion to table it, it'd just be bumped to next month.
What he's saying is
Why
they're not
Are
action
they in
items.
the cycle?
Right.
Is this part of the cycle?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
I thought it was left over
We-
from last
They're
year.
not on as action items.
We reviewed them as a committee last fall, I think about a year
Yeah.
ago.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is not part of the 3-year cycle,
Yeah, and we only
So
brought
we
it back up because of the situation.
right? So we could just,
Yeah, so if we don't wanna take any action, we don't have to take it. Cause it, yeah. Yeah, like Karen said, it wasn't on an official action item, so. I guess we can move on with no action.
Fine.
And then the other item was policy BCC nepotism. Kinda goes hand in hand with the other policy, and I think it was because they were intertwined. I mean, we don't have to take any action on it, we can.
I make a motion that we don't have to make.
You don't even
a
have to make a motion, so we can just move on if
Yeah,
there's no
because
other
it was
discussion.
reviewed in November of last year, so I
Mhm.
don't think we can do it, just.
No, we don't have to do anything.
I'm not seeing substantial changes between the 2021 text, less all of the provisional stuff that's now dead, and the 2025.
And I think it was going hand in hand, I think it was one of those all or none, you know, if we were gonna take the conflict of interest policy, then we were gonna have to, you know, go with the nepotism policy along the side, so. We can say no action on that one. The last thing I wanted to talk about today was, to see if we wanted to discuss or bring up to debate, policy BEDH, which is the public participation policy, because as you know, or may not know, it's been a pretty hot topic in a lot of the districts around the area. You know, Augusta's had some heated battles, Lincoln's had some heated battles on that, and I have a feeling we will be having, knowing some policies that are gonna be presented in the future that may drive more public participation into our meetings. I know the biggest contention that a lot of those policies have, that we already have in place, in ours is the 30-minute rule. So that's something that's already in our policy, so we don't have to touch that. I know there was discussion, and I think Danny wants to put some feedback on it, is the, making some kind of addition to the policy where we say only RSU 40 staff and taxpayer/residents can, participate in public participation. I know, cause that's one of the things that I have noticed in both the Augusta, cause I've watched their meetings, both the Augusta and the Lincoln, school board meetings. They've had one or two people, actually the same exact person, go to both meetings and for good or bad, you know, kick a hornet's nest around. So, I don't know, you know, if that's, you know, we wanna try to avoid that, you know, when we're just looking at the best interest of the school district and our students, you know. What I would like to see is, I'd like us to welcome feedback from the public, but I also wanna avoid having another 1 AM marathon when it comes to public participation as well.
I'm not sure that we actually need to take any action on this. We've had a very quiet past year, with the exception of the very beginning of the year. Our most controversial policies were reviewed last year and so should be put to bed under the schedule that we currently have. And unless there's gonna be an explicit change in the legal environment, I don't think we need to take them up again. And really the things that drive the most feedback are either controversial policies like that or things that relate to money and relate to the budget. I think we can agree we definitely definitely want as much feedback as we can get on. So my suggestion, because unlike these other school districts which are, having difficulty at their meetings, right now we have, basically a record of a year of not having that be an issue. My expectation is that if we're going to do something with money that drives a lot of turnout, we want that commentary and we want that information for people. And if we're gonna do something controversial enough to piss a lot of people off, then I think we should be prepared to eat the consequences of that, which is having to hear from the public about it.
Did you wanna speak, Danny?
Well, no, it was just when you had mentioned about leaving it to employees and I think you said residents. If you were gonna go that route, you'd wanna add in like parent, guardian, you'd wanna add in student, and you might also wanna add in taxpayer.
Oh, right, yeah,
Cause a taxpayer is not necessarily a resident.
correct, yeah, because you could have an apartment where you're not technically a taxpayer, but you do reside district.
Mary was first.
Oh, sorry.
I would like to include something in the policy about, limiting it to that, because for those of us who experienced and were on the board for those, 1 and 2 a.m. meetings, a lot of the people in the audience were from Bangor and had been brought in from other organizations through the state, and, sorry, I think that's unnecessary.
Yeah, it was from both sides of the issue.
Yeah, oh, yeah, both sides, yeah, there's lots of people in there, yeah, definitely.
I have mixed feelings on whether, I don't wanna sort of wager an opinion on limiting it to the immediate. However, I do feel pretty strongly that people in the taxpayer parent blah 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 category should be given priority over those things. I know that at the meeting in question, my husband, a taxpayer and both a parent, was darn near dead last in his opportunity to speak, and that was, he got a little fired up about that, rightfully so. But I think, I don't know, I think there's times when maybe an outside expert or an outside person may have something to say that would be relevant, so limiting that. Yeah, I don't know, but I would say that I definitely wanted to add that if we make changes, I think there should be priority given, so that if there is a time cutoff, even if we extend past the 30 minutes, priority is given to our own folks.
How would you like to discern that? Would we be asking people to check boxes, are you a resident parent, et cetera, to
I
then
think-
go through the list?
I think
and
it
give
does.
to
The existing
What's the
sheet does
sheet
have
say
a parent
now?
on there,
Yeah.
which you can probably look over there.
So we just have to trust that people.
Right,
are
it is
honest
an honor
about that.
system at that point.
It's an honor system anyways, though, isn't it? Because we all don't know everybody.
Right.
But like I said, you can tell there, because if you do watch a lot of these other school board meetings, you can see, when it comes to these things, you can easily identify the repeat offenders, for lack of a better term, when it comes to that. So you could know that too, right?
Combine the two things. Residents, district, people in the district go first.
Mhm.
Then you hit the 30-minute clock. Give everyone else their 3 minutes.
Right, and like I said,
They
this
just
would,
combine the
right,
two things.
right, 'cause this is just a general discussion if we wanted to open up, to relook at that policy, because right now the policy just basically says anyone that wants to talk
Because
can
there
talk.
could be a
And,
parent that doesn't.
basically it's 3 minutes of discussion, 30 minutes, so you basically have 10 speakers unless the board wants to extend that, which I did talk to Danny about that, about the 2/3 rule, and he said, in his opinion, that it would be just a regular.
I agree.
Majority vote.
Majority, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I
Yeah,
Can I
well,
just-
absolutely.
I would recommend so the question for this evening is, do we want to take a look at this policy? We're kind of going into the conversation, which is totally
Right.
cool. I'm good.
Yeah.
But if we want to take a look at it, we just wanted feedback before we took the time to plan that. And so I asked for clarification, and just to be clear, my recommendation to you would be if you want to modify it to to do this, then what you should say is individuals speaking at public comment must be a resident of RSU 40, a taxpayer, a parent or guardian of a student in RSU 40 schools, a student of RSU 40, or an employee of RSU 40. Those are the people that have a vested interest in the decisions that you're making as a board for policy purposes. I'm not taking a side on this. I'm just saying that if you're going to do that, I would recommend those people, because if you didn't include at least those people, you'd probably have a problem.
Oh, absolutely.
And then lastly, I do think it's important to consider having a piece that says that an exception to the rule could be made on the board by the board chair, just because you never know, right? Expert, so I don't know. I just am always nervous about hard, fast rules that put us in boxes. But I also understand what you all went through, so I was trying to figure out how could you say it. And this is very similar to what I've done in other districts in the past, and it was very effective, right? The people who needed to speak that are a part of the community, that are either paying bills or have children in the schools or working for the schools, have an opportunity to speak. But I'm not, this isn't a black and white thing. It's really pretty tricky.
Dan could correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's anything that prevents one of the board members, if we wanted to have a special presenter, we could always ask Danny to add that to the agenda or in that, so it's not like we're completely shutting out any type of expert or any kind of person of that nature, There's 16 of us, and we basically have the power to add anything on the agenda as long as it's within that 10-day window.
So we're just discussing.
Oh, yeah, it's just discussing if we wanted to bring it.
Make a motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and like I said, there's no formal motion or anything like that. It was just, I just wanted to get everyone's feedback on that, and then if everyone does that, then we'll make it an action item for the next meeting.
Do you happen, sorry.
Okay, yeah.
Do you happen to know when that policy was reviewed most recently?
Ooh, I'd have to,
I might know.
yeah, they can probably pull up. and
It was
something
reviewed in
like that.
February, it was February 1st of 2024
Okay.
was the last time you reviewed it public. It was adopted in 2013, but it was revised February 1st of 2024.
And
About a year and a half, so.
Can you, like, if we're gonna discuss this again at the next meeting, could you put into writing?
Yeah, I would, the format that you got tonight for the restraint policy is what you'll get for every meeting, for every policy, moving forward.
Move forward, yeah.
Like, there'll be a draft for you to consider and see.
Is it alright?
Just to go along with what Ben said, I'm just curious why we're anticipating needing to change this policy.
Namely, we're gonna be having to look at the cell phone policy. So I'm pretty sure that that's gonna garner some debate one way or the other. And there may be some other policies that may have to come up that may draw more than 1 or 0 people for public participation. So it's more, being proactive than having to deal with it after.
May
No.
I add something? I would hesitate to, as much as I never wanna sit to an 8-hour board meeting again in the metal chair, limiting it to 30 minutes. Because if I show up with my 10 besties and we sign up first, we're gonna take the first 30 minutes. And if I'm all in on let's not spend money, then me and my 10 besties are the only ones you're gonna hear from.
Right.
Or 9 besties, I can do
Right.
that.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're getting into the discussion of it, but I also feel pretty strongly that if somebody takes the time to show up and, exercise their right to speak to us, then
Right.
they should be heard.
Right, and that was something that Danny and I were talking about as well, because how the policy is written, when you're talking about extending time, you actually have to put a time limit. So that may be something that we wanna put on there saying that it's an open-ended, so we don't have to go back every half hour, an hour to extend another hour. So that's another thing that Danny and I were discussing about that policy as well, because we can definitely go over the 30 minutes and we can vote on that. It's just a matter of, okay, now we have to have the policy written down, we have to basically put, time limits on how far we're gonna extend every time, so.
Well, at the meetings
Mhm.
last year, right at the get-go, you suggested we extend the time, so we could certainly do that, but still stick to the priority first people.
Mm-hmm.
So, that so that Karen and your besties don't
Right.
just.
Right, 'cause-
I don't even have 9 friends,
No.
Naomi, but I'm just saying.
But Dan can do math, you know, once he gets that sheet, that
Oh, wait a
public
minute, wait a
presentation. I hope so, know where he works, I hope he can do math.
Well,
So, you know, he can look at the sheet and see how many people are on there, and, you know, 3 minutes per each person, it's pretty simple, you know. So, and that's why he was, you know, able to do that, you know.
Can a motion just be put forward until you've exhausted everyone who's signed up to speak? Like, it doesn't have to be time block constraints, right, to extend it by 30?
Cause in years past, people would make a motion to extend it 10 minutes.
Right.
Then, so usually I just, if you know it's gonna be a while, I suggest just say, extend it until you're done.
That's we.
Right.
yeah, I've seen that happen
Right.
before.
That's why the
Right.
meeting took 8 hours.
Well, I,
Oh, right.
I was curious about that meeting too, and I'm wondering if, again, a little curious about sort of what we've got up our sleeves, that is necessitating this conversation, but if there's, I was curious about those last meetings that, like, why'd y'all put other stuff on the agenda? You kind of like saw it coming that it was gonna be a meeting, and then, like, I felt it was interesting that there was more stuff you had to like do the minutia in that same meeting, so.
Like my auditor came.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah.
And somebody got an award.
He
and
made
the
his
other one-
Right, like it was
They were
somebody's like
waiting,
retirement
just
party, like,
waiting.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
had like 5 retirements.
yeah, it,
Yeah.
it was interesting.
Big tone shift.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's everyone, oh, go ahead.
I would just say, you know, the pendulum swings back and forth. There are things that are gonna need to be looked at and be remedied, and I think that this works. If we bring this forward to give priority to the people that we're talking about doing, it's gonna expedite the process, make our local people feel heard first. And everyone is welcome to come and attend. It's not like we're closing the doors. It's still open to the public, whoever wants to come and show support for whatever side. But I think it would be favorable to everybody in the long term to just glean this down and give the priority to who we are representing, not people who wanna drive 2 hours to come here.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion.
So everyone feels we should at least bring this to the table for the next, meeting and at least look at it and put our recommendations on it? Alright,
Okay.
Tom and I will
Right.
do that.
I'll get to work on it.
Does anyone else, have anything else for the good of the committee? If not, the time is 6:08 and we are adjourned.